The first time I realized my marriage had shifted into unfamiliar territory was on an evening that should have been ordinary. My husband, Daniel, and I had been together for over 12 years. We had built a life in the quiet suburbs of Michigan, raising 2 children, sharing responsibilities, and navigating the ups and downs that come with long-term relationships. But sometimes, the routine of life has a way of clouding over the deeper truths. And sometimes, those truths reveal themselves in ways you never expect. Daniel had always been the steady one, the reliable anchor of our marriage. He worked as a financial advisor, a job that demanded precision and patience. I, Emily, worked part-time as a graphic designer, so I could spend more time at home with our kids, Hannah and Luke. Our life wasn't perfect, but it was stable, or so I thought. It all began one summer evening when our kids had gone to stay with my sister for the weekend. It was supposed to be a chance for Daniel and me to reconnect, to remind ourselves that beyond the roles of parents, we were still partners who had chosen each other. We opened a bottle of wine, played music, and laughed about little things. For the first time in months, I felt like we were rediscovering who we were together. But then something happened that shifted the dynamic between us. Daniel confessed he had been feeling disconnected, not because he didn't love me, but because he felt like our lives had become so predictable, so controlled by routine, that passion had been replaced with comfort. He said he wanted to try being more open with each other, not just about our feelings but also about experiences. I didn't fully understand what he meant at first, but the weight in his voice told me it was something important to him. Later that night, I found myself in a situation I never could have imagined. Daniel wanted me to know that he trusted me so deeply that he could allow me freedom in ways most husbands would not. He wanted me to experience what it felt like to be seen in a different light, even if it meant he was watching from the sidelines. At first, I resisted, afraid of what this meant for our marriage, afraid of the word that lingered at the back of my mind: infidelity. But he reassured me, saying that for him, it wasn't betrayal but rather a way of breaking free from the walls we had built around our intimacy. What unfolded that night was something I carried heavy in my heart for weeks afterward. Daniel watched me step into a space I had never entered before, and though it felt surreal, it was something he encouraged. I saw in his eyes not anger, not jealousy, but something else, an odd mix of curiosity, vulnerability, and even pride. He had opened a door neither of us could close again. In the days that followed, our dynamic shifted. At first, I expected him to regret what he had allowed, to pull away from me emotionally. But instead, he seemed lighter, more affectionate, more open. He told me that watching me had made him feel alive again, as though he had been able to experience passion vicariously through me. Still, deep inside, I wrestled with guilt. Even though he had given his blessing, part of me felt as though I had crossed a line that no marriage could truly withstand. Weeks later, Daniel came to me one evening with a confession of his own. "Emily," he said, his voice trembling slightly, "I think it's time you get to watch me." At first, I didn't understand what he meant. But slowly, the reality sank in. Just as he had opened the door for me, he now wanted me to step into his shoes, to see him in the same way he had seen me. I can't pretend that I didn't feel a surge of fear. The thought of watching him with someone else was something I hadn't prepared for. Jealousy rose like a wave inside me, and I questioned whether I was strong enough to handle it. But Daniel reminded me gently that this was about balance, about both of us being willing to be vulnerable, to let go of control, and to trust that our love could withstand the unthinkable. When the time finally came, I sat in the same place where he had once sat, my heart pounding as I watched the man I loved in a way I never had before. At first, the jealousy threatened to consume me. My hands shook, my stomach knotted. But as I continued to watch, something strange happened. I began to understand what he had felt, the rawness of vulnerability, the odd mixture of pain and intimacy. It wasn't about betrayal. It was about exposing the deepest corners of our relationship to light, even if it meant facing uncomfortable truths. That night changed me as much as it changed him. When we held each other afterward, there were no words, only the unspoken acknowledgement that we had crossed into territory few couples ever dared to explore. And though I can't say it was easy, I also can't deny that it forced us to confront parts of ourselves we had hidden for years. As the weeks turned into months, Daniel and I continued to navigate this new chapter of our marriage carefully. There were moments of doubt, of course, moments when I wondered if we were playing with fire, moments when he questioned whether we had gone too far. But there were also moments of unexpected closeness, of deeper honesty, of rediscovered passion. We had learned to see each other in ways that went beyond the ordinary, beyond the comfortable. Even now, years later, when I look back on that season of our lives, I don't see it as a story of betrayal. I see it as a story of trust, of two people daring to watch each other not just with their eyes but with their souls. My husband watched me, and now I get to watch him. And through it all, we discovered that love is not about avoiding discomfort but about walking through it together.